Hand phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
Lincoln Riley has been viewed as one of the best head coaches in college football and an offensive-minded genius for quite some time. He became one of the youngest college football coaches as a head coach at a prominent blue blood school like Oklahoma back in 2017, where he had a lot of success in his tenure there, going 55-10, 37-7 in conference play, making 3 college football playoff appearances, having 3 Heisman finalists and 2 Heisman winners, and even 4 straight Big 12 titles. However, he did shock many people at the end of his tenure at Oklahoma, as at the very end of the regular season during the 2021 college football campaign, after a bedlam loss to Oklahoma State, Lincoln Riley, just a little over 12 hours later, would end up being named the head coach for USC football. Now, all of a sudden, a team that went 4-8 in 2021 in USC now had playoff aspirations, and it seemed like they were going to have a very good shot to reach it if they just controlled their own destiny in the Pac-12. Fast forward to today, a team that seemed like they were going to be destined for at least a college football playoff appearance by year 2 of the Lincoln Riley era at USC now seems like a distant pipe dream. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Lincoln Riley and USC football. Before I move on, remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's get into it. USC football these past couple seasons has been talked about a lot in the realm of just football overall, and rightfully so. They are a big media market. They have a generational talent at quarterback, a great head coach that has been talked about highly for quite some time, ever since his first year at Oklahoma, going 12-2, and of course having all the Heisman winners he had at Oklahoma in Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. But let's get back to the point. Going into 2022, they had a lot of hype. People expected this team to potentially win the Pac-12 title, potentially be a college football playoff team, and to surely win 10-plus games, to reach their first 10-plus winning season mark since the year of 2017. And that was the expectations. It didn't matter if they came off a 4-8 season. People knew this team had potential, and with Caleb Williams leading this team and Lincoln Riley calling the plays for the offense, you knew this offense was going to be legendary. The 2022 season for USC ultimately was a success. Did they win the Pac-12 title or even make it to the college football playoff? No. But this season still was a success, especially for year 1 in the Lincoln Riley era at USC. They went 11-3. They finished 12th in the final AP poll. The offense averaged 41 points a game, which was 3rd in the nation. However, on the flip side, the defense was not very good at all, allowing 29 points a game, which ranked 94th in all of FBS college football. They only lost 1 regular season game, which ended up being to Utah, and they eventually lost to them in the conference championship game and lost their game versus Tulane in the Cotton Bowl in a choking fashion, which is not the way to close off a year, but it's just the way that they did. However, they also had a Heisman winner in Caleb Williams and a team that was locked in and loaded with that quarterback going into 2023. Heading into the current 2023 college football campaign, the expectations were a lot higher for USC football. As USC, they were returning the Heisman winner, the best player in college football in Caleb Williams, returning a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball and some promising good players on the defensive side of the ball. Not only that, but they're bringing in a great recruiting class that ranked inside the top 10 and a transfer portal class that was supposed to make this defense a lot better and improve the team overall to try to get over that hump to win the Pac-12 title and to make the college football playoff. However, now the goal of a college football playoff appearance and potentially going to the national title game now seems like a distant pipe dream. As USC, they're currently on a 2-game losing streak. They sit in at 6-2, only 1 conference loss. However, it doesn't seem the most promising as of right now to really win out and to have a lot more madness happen for you to potentially get a spot in the college football playoff as a 2-loss team. They're currently ranked as the number 24 team in the nation in the AP poll. The offense is averaging 45 points a game, which is 3rd in the nation. However, they're also allowing 30.5 points a game, which ranks 107. USC football, to put it point blank, period. Even if they reach 10 wins somehow, let's say they reach 10 wins by winning a bowl game, the season is going to be considered disappointing. This team had a lot of high expectations, brought in a loaded transfer portal class that was supposed to revamp that defense, had great players on the offense coming back, and of course, Caleb Williams. You had Caleb Williams coming back at quarterback, and now you have a chance to potentially not go to the conference championship game, and heck, you may not even reach a New Year's Six Bowl if you really don't win out the remaining schedule, as they have home games remaining versus Cal and Oregon and away games with Washington and UCLA. I think you can only guarantee one of those games being a win with how USC is playing football right now, especially on that defensive side of the ball. Now, I believe they're going to win at least 2 of the 4 games they have on the schedule remaining, but that Washington and Oregon game, those are 2 top 10 teams in college football. And if USC is going to play like they've been recently, there's no shot they're going to win those games. And if they lose both of those games, they're finishing 8-4 in the regular season. And that would be a travesty, especially with how that roster is, the offensive coaching staff that they have, and of course, who they have at quarterback, who's going to be the literal #1 pick in this year's NFL draft. And it's not even just that. Yeah, the offense has been good this year, but they're also responsible for a loss in that game that they had versus Notre Dame. And, you can't ignore the defensive side of the ball either. That seems like it's only regressed 1 year later, despite bringing in a lot of transfers that are seen as top transfers in the portal this year on the defensive side of the ball. Total defense, they rank 104 in the nation. In scoring defense, they rank outside the top 100 yet again at 105. I can go on even longer. Rushing defense, USC ranks at 98. And passing yards allowed a game, it's not looking much better either, as USC ranks at 96. There's clearly been a defensive problem at USC, not only last season, but this year as well. And there's also a potential another problem that maybe isn't getting talked about as much, and of course, USC is a team that will utilize the transfer portal heavily, but their 2024 recruiting class is disappointing to say the least. And that's not saying the players that are in that class are bad, as there's a lot of players in that class that have high potential. But you have to say what it is. If you look at it on 24/7 Sports, they rank in at number 19. Heck, you look at other sites, they may be outside the top 20, which for USC, that's never a good sign. And this is Lincoln Riley's lowest rated recruiting class of all time in the modern recruiting era, of course. Doesn't really matter what recruiting platform you really look at, it's going to be his lowest one, even dating back all the way at Oklahoma and the current years at USC. That's just the way it is. Of course, this is as a head coach, not an offensive coordinator like he was at East Carolina. And amid all the rumors that Lincoln Riley is eyeing down an NFL job, potentially the team that ends up drafting Caleb Williams, if you're a USC fan, I feel like you have to be slightly concerned for kind of down the line in general about USC football, as this year has been a disappointment to this point, and if things don't change real fast for the rest of the season, this may be an 8-win team in regular season play. And things are obviously going to have to change before they move to the Big Ten, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and honestly, even on the offensive line. As does Caleb Williams get sacked a lot? No, not really, but he seems to be running for his life or having to play superhero ball pretty much every game. To close off this video, I do want to have some closing remarks about Lincoln Riley, as is it time to be talking about him a little different in regards to some of the other coaches in college football. As often, he's described as an elite college football coach, as yes, he's won a lot of games and he really doesn't lose all that much. I mean, he did win 4 straight conference championships back at Oklahoma in the Big 12. And I understand, the Pac-12, it's a gauntlet this year. The Pac-12 is going to have its last season with all of its teams, and it's the best season we've seen from the Pac-12 in quite some time. Honestly, there's not many slouches in that conference as of right now. But let's get back to the point of Lincoln Riley. If they do not step it up this last half of the college football season, And I would say, try to salvage it a little bit, get to 10 wins in the regular season, upset a Washington or an Oregon. This season is a travesty. Some may even argue it's already a travesty, as they're not going to the college football playoff, and they may not even reach the conference championship game with a generational type of player like Caleb Williams. Some people talk about Caleb Williams as he's one of the best prospects we've ever seen in quite some time. And I actually do agree to an extent. But is it time to have the conversation about Lincoln Riley as he's a slightly overrated head coach? I think he's a great coach. I think he's a great head coach. I think he's one of the best offensive minds in college football, arguably the best one right now. However, you have to have the discussion. He doesn't always win those really big games when it really matters most. Every year he's had a really bad defense. I know he's not the defensive coach, and he did have that 1 year in 2020 in which the defense was actually pretty good. But he has a decision who his defensive coordinator is going to be. Yet he's stuck with one pretty much for basically 5 years to this point, and out of those years, they've only had 1 year where they've had a good sign of defense, and the rest have been pretty bad. One of the lowest and worst ranked defenses in all of college football with Alex Grinch. And yes, you can blame Alex Grinch, but Lincoln Riley's the one that keeps him with him. He's had an opportunity to move on, hire a bigger name at DC to really change his teams, and ultimately, that has not happened yet. It has to be said, for as long as Lincoln Riley is going to be a head coach in college football, he is never going to reach that level where he's going to be considered truly elite, winning the playoff games, winning the games that are going to matter the most to the season, and of course, winning a national title if he does not change things in his scheme to have complementary football on both sides of the ball. Heck, he doesn't have to have an elite defense on the other side of the ball. You can have a team that is around the top 50 range, maybe even a little outside the top 50 for defense overall. And with that offense, you can make some noise and potentially win a national title. However, in the past 6.5 seasons as a head coach, it seems like that direction has never really been anything that's come to this point. And if it never changes, Lincoln Riley is going to be known as a great offensive mind, but ultimately someone that could never win the biggest games when it mattered most because he could not field a complimentary football team. Well, guys, if you made it this far into the video, drop something down in the comment section below. What videos do you want to see on this channel in the future? And before you head out, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already. B. Kelly out.